Well, that's a loaded question a bit because it can mean so much. But
Yeah,
there is a section where I've heard people say before, well, how much money do I have to make in my
there you
side
go.
project before I have to report it to the IRS?
There you go.
And
Mm-hmm.
the answer is $1, a cent, a penny, right? If you make
Yep.
a profit, then it needs to be recorded. And that's the biggest thing is that, if you're making $10, then report it. And if, let's say, you have enough expenses that it doesn't affect your tax liability, then I'd rather you put it and it not affect you than you
Right.
not put it and it affect you. Because then they're
Yeah.
going to come back at you and say, hey, you underreported, there's a penalty for this, and then there's interest on the amount that you originally would have owed us. So, they say
Mhm.
every 4 years, that tax liability doubles and the penalties and interest alone.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. When I first started this conversation, I made the comparison to maintenance versus repair in our cars, right?
Mhm.
And the good news is nowadays, most of our cars come with a maintenance schedule to literally tell you
Right.
what to do. In that same vein, are there some things you would tell people who would say, well, again, I may not be ready to hire Xavier, but what are some things I could do to be a little bit more proactive?
Well, being organized is the biggest thing, keeping track of your expenses. As a small business owner, you do get taxed at a higher rate. You do have to pay your own self-employment taxes and things of that nature. And so what that means is that you should take advantage of the opportunities to kind of mitigate
Yes.
this, right? So
Yes.
you don't take all of the responsibility without taking any of the benefits. And that's the best way that I would put it. So organization
That's good.
is key. Keeping track of your expenses, your receipts, doing bookkeeping, even if it's just a simple balance sheet where you say this is what's coming in and this is what's going out, and you do, profit and loss at the end of the month. And I know a lot of people say profit and loss, but just look it up, see how to do it, and
Absolutely.
if your numbers aren't complex, then the calculations won't be complex. But at least then you'll be able to see what's going on.
That's good. Be organized. I love that, man.
Yes, sir.
Listen, as we wrap up a little bit, are there any other things that I didn't cover in terms of your lessons or in terms of what you want people to take away before we wrap up?
Well, no, we pretty much hit a little bit on everything, but one of the bigger lessons that I want to just kind of, nail once again is that, read the letters. Sometimes they're not as bad as they seem.
Yes.
You never know. You could get a letter that says, hey, we found out that you overpaid in taxes. Here's a refund. You never know what it's about, right?
Right. But open the letter.
Just open it because, there are times where there are situations that could have been easily resolved if the taxpayer had just opened the letter. But after 5, 6, 7 letters, now it's elevated. And even when it comes to getting help, it's like, hey, if they said that they were, planning on a levy, and that's one thing for us to help you get out of that. But now once they're levying you, that's a whole nother thing. So just by opening the letter, you can even save yourself additional troubles because these things don't go away. Just because you ignore it doesn't mean it goes away. Oftentimes it just gets worse.
That's good, man. That's really good.
Representation is the next one. If you're getting audited, if you're, it's like you wouldn't, this is the best way to put it, you wouldn't go and represent yourself. You can, by all means. But you see, in court, there's a judge and there's a jury. And you can appeal even if the judge thinks you're guilty. If the jury says you're not guilty, then you're not guilty.
Right.
But when it comes to IRS, the agent that's auditing you is the judge and the jury. Because they say what they want, what documents to bring, they have it in, they review it themselves, and then they say guilty or not guilty, they assign you that penalty. And so you really need representation. It's not a place to play. A lot of people, like I said, even that first conversation, they say, hey, when you go in there, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to have representation. Get as much out of them as possible. Why did they do that?
That's crazy. So crazy. That's so crazy. But yet at the same time, we see so many examples of that. They always say sometimes art imitates life.
Right. At the end of the day, because, the truth is that the IRS does just want to get down to the truth, right? They do want, they say, hey, if you made $100,000 and the tax rate is this and that's and the third, and then they're going to assess you properly. Right.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, as a taxpayer, you do have rights to representation because you might say something that, you might say something incriminating and you might not even really be guilty of what you're saying, but you just said something wrong. It's just that, like I said, why you don't represent yourself in court. You can be totally innocent,
right.
say something incriminating on the accident, and now, you put yourself in a situation. And so just not trying to be your own representation.
That's good.